and welcome back to Spinny Explains IT. It's probably going to be a shorter episode, but let's dive in. A huge breach has occurred about 3 days ago to the whole state of Maine. This is pretty bad. So this was, if you remember last week, I talked about how the Okta breach didn't affect that many people. Well, this one affected a lot. So it affected about 1.3 million people, which is almost the whole state of Maine. And so what had happened was the government was using, or a bunch of different agencies were using this as well. It's called the Move It file transfer tool. And there was a 0-day vulnerability that some hackers were able to exploit. The bad thing about this is what they were able to obtain. They were able to obtain full names, social security numbers, date of births, driver's license, state identification number, taxpayer identification number, and health insurance information. Basically, everything you would need to open up loans, you basically steal someone's identity entirely. So this is bad. Now, it said not everybody had all of these things, but anyone who did get affected with social security, numbers being taken, or not date of birth, but like all those things together that could be to get your identity stolen, were given a 2-year free of basically identification protection. So they would get alerts if someone tried to open another account and all these things. It's basically what they do anytime there's a big data breach. They try to just minimize the risk of anything happening, so they'll just give people a couple years of free protection, but most of the time, I don't know, it just seems like there should be more. It seems like a pretty cop-out, but I don't think there's much you can do. I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, this is bad. 1.3 million people had all these things leaked, and like I've said in the previous videos, we don't have any information of how exactly they did it, most likely being that this is still an ongoing investigation because it has been 3 days. And as well, on top of that, it's probably not patched, or they're making sure that everything's patched at the way they got in. And they might not even release how they did it exactly. So, this may come out months later until we actually hear what went down exactly. So that's pretty huge news in the cyber world. It's very bad. One of the worst ones we've heard coming out of late. But with that, today I'm going to go more kind of computer stuff, kind of step away from cyber. I think I'm just going to do alternating every week cyber, and the next week just kind of broad computer things. So today, let's just talk about RAM. You've heard it probably. You heard people say that they want a lot of RAM in their computers. So what is it? So RAM just stands for Random Access Memory. It's pretty cool name, I guess, but we call it RAM. And all it is just temporary memory that is basically executables, programs are loaded into RAM in order to process it, and then it's given to the CPU to given the instructions on what's needed to happen. And so, yeah, the biggest thing is it's temporary. It's only there, so if you shut off your computer, whatever was in RAM is gone. So the reason why you hear people wanting a lot of RAM is because you can load more, and typically means it processes faster, but there's this kind of disconnect of people who want a lot of RAM, but they don't really look at the other components in their computer. If you have a bad video graphics card, it's not going to be good. If you have a bad CPU, it doesn't matter how much RAM you have. I mean, it's going to help, of course, but there's going to be a point where you bottleneck, because it doesn't matter how much fast your RAM is. If your computations, if your CPU can't handle it, it's not going to do anything. So yeah, that's pretty simple. RAM's really simple. And it's just a pretty simple concept, but just in computers, so people who game or just want a faster computer will typically talk about RAM because it's the easiest thing you can switch out. You just buy it, open your computer, pop off the 2 little pins on the side, take out the RAM, put in a new stick of RAM that's faster. Really simple. So it's one of the most things people will talk about because it's so easy and quick to change. And then with that, let's just jump into ping. You probably heard of ping before, right? And I'm not talking about the golf, okay? I'm talking about computers, all right? So let's talk about ping. You probably hear a lot about it in gaming, but let's go to computers first of what that means. It's usually just a command. It's a command line, command that you send on the command line. Basically, you can ping anything. You can ping google.com, and it'll send echo packets, about 5 of them, and it'll tell you the process of how long it took for it to get to the server and get a response and the time of life of the packet and all those things. This is really useful if you are having like issues, people are having connectivity issues, maybe to a specific site or whatever, and maybe within your network. You can do ping commands and you can see where it's failing, because maybe it's not even getting outside of your network. Maybe it's never even hitting their server because it's something internal that's gone down. So it's a really good troubleshooting tool that's still used all the time. But jumping into gaming and what that means for gaming, you'll hear it a lot. Basically, it's a similar thing. It's how long it takes the gamer's input to hit the server. So it's kind of that response. If you do something on a keyboard, how long it takes to input that to the server. So it only applies in multiplayer games, of course, because that's what's online. And so it's kind of like golf in a way. I've talked about it twice, I guess. I just got golf on my mind. But the lower the better, right? You want a lower ping. You don't want a high ping, because that is the response it's taking for your input to be processed. So if you have 300 milliseconds, that's a long time. That's opposed to 60 milliseconds or whatever it may be. So in those cases, it could be internet, and if you're having that issue, it could be an internet provider issue. Maybe your internet's not very stable as well. Usually bad ping is going to come because if you're on Wi-Fi, if you're not Etherneted in, that's going to cause some latency in your ping as well, because it's taking time to process from your device to the Wi-Fi to your router to the server. So that's mainly going to be your biggest thing. So maybe if you're at a big distance within your house and you are far from the router, you don't have a good clear connection, that's going to cause bad ping. So you're going to want to be Etherneted in. It's a possibility, but more often than not, it's going to be you have slow internet and bad ping, which if you're a gamer, that is the absolute worst combination in the world, and it's what causes a lot of people to probably break their controllers. But with that, yeah, I don't really have much else. That's really all I have for the week. Just kind of a short video. But stay tuned next week. I'm thinking I'm gonna jump into some more cybersecurity things and talk about that. So we will see you then.